Red Bull's 2023 season was unprecedented in Formula 1 history. Winning 21 races in a season, with 19 of those going to Max Verstappen, is a massive achievement, but it's not one that will be easy to repeat. With the 2024 season just 2 months away and the team starting to finalise their designs for the Bahrain practice in February, talk about whether Red Bull will dominate again or not is everywhere. Today, I'll talk about the huge claim Red Bull have made about their chances in 2024 and what the rest of the teams are doing to ensure that 2023 won't be repeated. The infamously tricky Singapore Grand Prix was the only thing that stood between Red Bull and Formula 1's first ever perfect season. The stifling heat and bumpy winding streets of the Yas Marina circuit provide a challenge that every season's best F1 team tends to struggle with. Low-speed corners were the RB19's only weakness, and the non-stop right-angle turns in Singapore proved to be the team's downfall. Coupled with the bumpy track surface, which really upsets the ground effect car's performance, and the race was a recipe for disaster for Red Bull. It was so bad for the team that Max finished 21.441 seconds behind race winner Carlos Sainz, which is a massive deficit when compared to his average winning margin over the whole season of 13.363 seconds. Red Bull now share the record of winning all but one race in a season with the McLaren MP44 of 1988. But in the much closer matched world of modern F1, and with more wins, Red Bull's performance in 2023 is arguably more impressive, though hard to compare. The off-season talk is all about whether or not Red Bull can repeat that unbelievable feat in 2024, and while some can't see a way for the rest of the grid to close the gap, Red Bull themselves are not so sure. After breaking pretty much every single season record in Formula 1 in 2023, Max Verstappen is convinced that he won't be able to match that performance next year. The others will improve their cars and get closer to us, he said. I don't think it's that realistic to achieve that win rate again, but that's fine. To already have a season like we've had is insane. The now 3-time world champion Verstappen won a record 85% of the races and led 1,003 laps in the season. Speaking in an interview for the 5 Live F1 review show, he said he believed the fact the rules were staying stable into 2024 would help others catch Red Bull. The others are not stupid, he said. They're all learning. Of course, the longer you keep the regulations the same, the closer it'll get, because people start to understand which direction they have to develop in. Luckily, we hit the ground running really well with the regulations in 2022, but I definitely expect next year, for sure, all will definitely take a step toward us. I don't know which particular team, because if you look at the whole season, it has been a bit up and down for everyone except us, so I don't really know in the winter which team is going to make the biggest jump. Hopefully, of course, they will stay behind, but we'll see in Bahrain. Preseason testing at the Sakhir circuit in Bahrain is on the 21st to the 23rd of February, before the first race of the season takes place at the same track a week later on the 2nd of March. While the livery reveals for 2024 will happen in the weeks preceding the first practice, it won't be until the 21st that Red Bull will really be able to see what the competition have been up to in the off-season, as designs are often hidden until the absolute last minute. Before I tell you what Christian Horner has said about his team's chances in 2024, I want to let you know that over the Christmas holidays, we'll be releasing a 3-hour video on the complete history of Formula 1, or at least as complete a history as you can give in 3 hours. We'll highlight some of the best seasons, the craziest technical developments, and the stories of the most famous racing drivers of each decade. We're super excited to share it with you all, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it when it drops. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner echoed Verstappen's opinion, saying, "I'm sure over the next 2 years, we'll see a lot closer racing. We'll not repeat this year. This will go down as a unicorn year, that's for sure." Max Verstappen's dominance in 2023 has completely overshadowed the fact that the racing was as competitive as it has been since the start of the turbo hybrid era in 2014. In qualifying, it wasn't uncommon to see as little as 1 second difference between the fastest and slowest cars in each session. On track, behind Max, it was an absolute battleground, with any one team able to get the advantage at each race. Horner said Red Bull's engineers were seeing diminishing returns in their development as a result of the team hitting on the right design philosophy straight away when the new technical rules were introduced for the 2022 season. He said he expected others to improve as they learned the lessons of Red Bull's success, and because of the sliding scale of aerodynamic restrictions in the rules. These dictate that the most successful team has the least permitted allowance of wind tunnel and computational fluid dynamics time, and the least successful team the most. Horner was asked why Red Bull would not simply carry on their success into 2024, given they dominated so convincingly this year and had therefore been able to start work on their new car earlier than other teams. He replied, "Because there is a reset for the following year, and I'm convinced you'll see a lot of cars looking like the RB19 philosophy. We have got up the development curve quicker than others, but we're seeing diminishing returns, and with the lack of wind tunnel time we've had, even though we transitioned early, we still had less time in practice than a great many of our opponents, so have had to be very frugal and selective." Red Bull's testing penalty for breaching the budget cap in 2021 added to their testing time deficit during the first half of 2023. Aston Martin and McLaren, who finished 5th and 4th respectively in 2023, will have a big advantage in testing allowance over Red Bull, and will have a platform that could allow them to be big contenders in 2024. While Mercedes and Ferrari, who finished 2nd and 3rd respectively last season, are going to be completely overhauling their car over the winter, going for a new design philosophy from the chassis up. Red Bull, McLaren and Aston Martin will not be doing the same thing. The Milton Keynes-based team has been hard at work on its RB20 for several months now, having elected to switch off development of its 2023 Challenger early because it was so far ahead of the competition. But while it knows it will need to make progress if it is to stay ahead of its competition next year, the squad says that there will be no huge change of direction this winter, even if it is working on improvements. Asked about what can be expected from the RB20, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said, "Evolution, not revolution. All areas have been revisited in the car, and we can't afford to have any complacency. So the car is very much an evolution of a theme. We're not reinventing the wheel, and that has been very much the root of the engineering path over the last 12 months. When you have a car that's won 21 of 22 races in the previous season, and the technical regulations stay exactly the same, it's unlikely that throwing that car away and starting anew is going to give you a better competitive advantage over your opponents than just refining what you have. The problem is that unless you find some new loophole in the rules that your current car philosophy can exploit, you aren't going to make any giant leaps forward in performance, just many small gains as you refine what you already have. This is something Red Bull are already experiencing, as Christian Horner says his team is seeing diminishing returns to the gains it is finding with the car, as he predicts the opposition to make significant progress as they copy the core design concepts that his squad has put to good use. I'm fully expecting with stable regs and diminishing returns for us because I think we got to the top of the curve quicker than others. The field is going to converge, he said. There's always a reset as you go into the following year, and I'm convinced that you'll see a lot more cars that perhaps look like an RB19 philosophy. If you stand still in this business, you tend to be going backwards. And I think that we've got up that curve quicker than others, but we're into a law of diminishing returns. One team who did not see diminishing returns in 2023 was McLaren. Their mid-season upgrade catapulted them from one of the worst teams on the grid to arguably the second fastest. With one excellent experienced driver in Lando Norris and an incredibly promising youngster in Oscar Piastri, if they can improve on their already competitive car, then they'll be a serious threat to Red Bull. And Max Verstappen knows it, as he told the Talking Bulls podcast. "Behind us was really up and down. It was one team second and then another team, so that's where the battle was quite close. It will all depend on how much they improve in the winter time, but in terms of which one was the most impressive behind us from where they started to where they ended was definitely McLaren. So it looks like they might be very strong next year. So what do you think? Will Red Bull run away with both championships again in 2024? Or will a team, maybe McLaren, be able to challenge them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our 3-hour feature on the full history of F1. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.